Goeglein is the guest. The book is Accidental Genius, Revolutionize Your Thinking Through Private Writing.
Yeah.
And you know, by accident is the only way Lou or I would ever become a genius, let me tell you.
One of the chapters in here, Andrea, I love this. Drop your mind on paper. That'd take me about 2 sentences.
No, you will be, I have to tell you, this book is such a cool little book because what Mark Levy, the author, has done is take us as adults. It's written for adults.
Yeah.
And there's really not a time when we're told, you know, oh, why don't you sit down and write, other than if you're in therapy and then they want you to write about your feelings.
Yeah.
And most of the time people are saying, oh no, I don't want to go near that concept. So what he has done is taken the concept of writing and applied it to business. And you know, rather than have you talk about your feelings, why not talk about something that you're really interacting with on a day-to-day basis and have it help you? And the word private, very important, because that's one of the things that scares us the most.
So no one should really see these, or can, or need to.
Need to. That's the thing. It's one of those activities that allows you to become in control of what you say. You don't have to censor. And you can start out in little 3 to 5 to 10-minute segments, and he's really listed the book beautifully. He's given you very tiny, and you know that that's one of the things I like in order to get people from just buying the books on self-help to actually using the books. Yes, you have to start in small incremental stages. Rarely will you just sit down and say, oh, I haven't written in 20 years since I did my last high school paper. I think I'll sit down and write today. Not gonna happen. So what you need to do is give people ways. And I'll give you an example. Last month when we were here, we were talking about different life strategies. And you mentioned in passing, oh, wouldn't it be good if we didn't let someone bother us at work? Well, this is a perfect tool because we will have an annoyance at work. Someone will walk by our office and our brain will start saying, oh no, not that person.
I don't do that.
I know. Yes, St. Lou does not do that. I understand. So,
I live it every morning, Andrea.
So what ends up happening, you know, you come out of a meeting and a pronouncement has come down that says we're now going to have this change. And these thoughts start running through your head. And quite honestly, it starts you down a road where you may not want to go. And if you could take one of the helpful hints that Mark has put in this book and go to like the bonus section where he actually has little starters, sentence starters. And one of them is, I hate. And so you can just start with the sentence, I hate. I hate that every time I go into a meeting on Wednesday morning, they may give us another thing to do.
I've done that. I put down there, I hate everyone, but I hate them equally.
See, look at that.
And so that's a good thing.
Yes. And now I will also tell you in my optimism, pessimism work, when I've worked with this book with clients, if I know that a client is particularly challenged in manifesting their own optimism, creating their own optimism, I do keep them away from starting statements. Like, we can laughingly use the statement, I hate, because many times when you walk out of a meeting, particularly at work on any given day, the concept of I hate or I won't or I will not, you know, that is the first thing that comes. And what we are trying to get you to do is to move through that quicker. Because if you can get that out and stop your brain from ruminating.
So if we write it, we'll get through it quicker?
Absolutely. And that has been a known fact of human development for quite a long time. When I first started studying ethical development during my dissertation days, what they had found is that people who stop the mind chatter and get it on paper actually begin to put in process.
That is so true.
And it releases. It also releases you.
You know, at night when I'm lying there in bed and thinking of 5 things that I have to do, if I get up and write them down, I'll go to sleep.
And so many times we have not been trained to use writing. We've been trained, you know, we get taught proper English, and we're trained to write paragraphs, and we have to write papers that we generally don't care about, and that type of thing. The most progressive schools, where they are finding the greatest good for children, is if they start them at kindergarten, give them a piece of paper and have 1 or 2 minutes a day where they're actually journaling. incredible. I just finished a 6-week course on gratitude where it was shown once again that people who write things down and what they are grateful for actually begin to build the momentum towards it. And that's what Mark shows you in this book.
And it's a calming thing. It's a very calming thing. Fast and continuously is, right?
And he has, absolutely. He has all sorts of techniques like that.
Yeah.
He does want you to use a timer, and then he gradually builds how long you spend. And that's like, you know, dumping your brain on a piece of paper. You know, you think that you have no thought on a subject, and it will be amazing how much is actually running around in your mind. And when you capture it, then you get the next opportunity to start allowing it to take form.
Yeah.
And don't worry about how you write how you think
and that's
it.
where the private writing comes in very. I have a joke in my home that when I die and they find all the journals that I have, it will be quite scary. They're going to say, oh no, we don't want to remember her about this.
Well, you know, folks in the olden days used to have journals. Everybody had a journal.
Correct.
Even people that were working, their journal was there. You could read what they were doing, and that was a good thing.
If they wanted you to read
If they wanted you to read.
Yes, and
they had lock and key on some of them.
I must say, my husband's family, my mother-in-law, had, as a child, came across the United States, moved from, I think it was Ohio, to California, and she kept a journal of that journey. And that was something that we were, 80 years later, able to give our children, because I had it transcribed, to give a real sense of what she was experiencing. And that's a beautiful gift. Technology has taken some of that thought time and free flow mind time away from us, and we have to recapture it. Because you can do it in paper and pen. I prefer paper and pen when I suggest people write, but if you are of the generation where computers are the first thing you go to, use that. Because all I care is that you enter the conversation.
So it doesn't matter. Of course,
Absolutely
it doesn't matter
does
how
not
you
matter.
put the words down.
It does
Just
not
put
matter.
them down. Now, I use a pencil because I make a lot of mistakes, so I use the other end. And
A lot.
And
Thank goodness for erasers.
That's
scribble
what
those
they
up.
made
Yes.
erasers for.
Yeah.
That
But
is.
now, how does that make us an accidental genius?
What happens is you begin to, you know, at first you think that you really don't have a lot to say, or you don't have many thoughts or constructive thoughts. And yes, at the beginning when you're writing, you may not be getting brilliant things down on paper. But the longer you work with a subject, once you've gotten rid of a lot of the stuff that's just running around, then you begin to be able to see what you weren't seeing before. And that's where Mark wants you to stay in this process long enough so that you can begin to build on what it is you started out with.
cool.
But if you don't put it on paper, you actually start back at the beginning all the time.
What will they find on your website, very quickly?
On my website, they'll find this little worksheet with a few little suggestions as to the questions and the main terms, and then the keys to the book, because cool and crappy writing. He says, you know, just think of all your thoughts as either cool and crappy. And I think that that is a great way. Giving humor to the entire process is a really beautiful way to start.
Well, he says have a genius moment.
Absolutely.
That's about all you've ever had.
I'm trying right. I'm working on it right now.
We're going to get you there.
No, we will. As always, great stuff, Andy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very informative.
Till next month.
Get there. Become an accidental genius. Might be a good thing.
Who are you? Are you who you think you are? Albert Golden's going to answer that question when we come back.